So many of us think of perfectionism as a good thing, right? We wear it like a badge of honor, a sign that we have high standards. But what if it isn't about achieving excellence at all? What if it's actually a pretty primitive defense mechanism, your brain's ancient way of trying to keep you safe? Well, that's exactly the idea we're going to dig into today.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. It gets right to the heart of the whole thing. What looks like discipline and hard work on the outside is often being powered by something totally different on the inside. We're going to unpack why that intense need for things to be just right can feel so paralyzing. It's not really a hunt for mastery, it's more about running away from fear.
So, first up, let's peel back the layers of this perfect disguise. What is really going on underneath that relentless drive to make everything flawless? This really shows the two sides of the coin, right? On the outside, we're projecting this image of strength, of high standards. But internally, the engine driving the whole thing is fear. Your nervous system isn't pushing for a better outcome. It is desperately trying to avoid what it thinks is a threat. A simple mistake isn't just an error anymore. It's treated like a genuine danger to your survival. So, where does that feeling of danger come from? Well, it's driven by a very specific mechanism that neuroscientists are starting to understand: your brain's threat loop. Let's take a look at the biological pattern that can completely hijack your thinking in like an instant.
It all kicks off with something called an identity threat. This is basically where your brain gets its wires crossed. It stops seeing, say, a typo or a flawed design as just an error in the work. Instead, it sees it as a fundamental error in you. And all of a sudden, the stakes feel impossibly, terrifyingly high.
Okay, so let's walk through this loop in real time. It all begins the moment some unfinished work pops into your head. You know, that report, that email you have to send, that piece of art. Instantly, it can feel exposed, visible, and super vulnerable. And bam, just like that, your brain goes on high alert. It starts scanning for any potential flaw, any little imperfection. And we're not talking about a calm, let's make this better kind of check. Nope, this is a frantic, hypervigilant search for danger. And then it finds one, or maybe just the idea of one. And this is the moment the red alert sirens just go off in your head. The brain doesn't just register mistake, it escalates it. That small error is now interpreted as a fundamental threat to your identity, your worth, your safety, the whole shebang. So, what does this actually look like in real life? When your brain is screaming danger, your survival instincts take over. You avoid the threat by just not starting the project. You try to eliminate the danger by getting stuck in a never-ending loop of over-editing. Or you just freeze up completely. And the craziest part? We look at this biological survival response and we call it a lack of motivation. Okay, so this whole brain loop thing, it isn't just some abstract idea. It comes with a very real, very practical cost. What is the price we're actually paying for letting this threat response run the show? And here's the kicker. The very thing you think is protecting your reputation, it's actually torpedoing it. First, it just shrinks your creative range because you're too scared to try anything new that might not be perfect, right? Second, it slows completion to a crawl, trapping you in that editing phase forever. And finally, it just plain steals your output. You end up producing less, all in the name of an impossible ideal. Okay, but here's the good news, and this is the most important part. This is a pattern, and patterns can be retrained. You are not stuck in this loop forever. So let's look at how we can start rewiring that response. Look, the goal here is not to become some emotionless robot or to suppress your feelings. It's about becoming a better coach for your own brain. You have to consciously feed it new, more accurate data, teaching it over and over again that a simple mistake is not a catastrophe. So how do we actually do that? Well, it comes down to 3 key strategies. First, you have to actively separate quality from catastrophe in your self-talk. Like literally say it out loud. This is a typo, not a total personal failing. Second, you have to design for what we call iterative exposure. So instead of one big terrifying project reveal, you share your work in small manageable pieces. Each time you do that and survive, you give your brain new data that says, see, we're okay. And third, measure completed reps. You have to shift your focus from some imaginary, perfect version to the real, tangible act of just finishing something. Each completion is a win. And once you really get this, really get it, everything changes. You stop beating yourself up. You stop calling yourself irrational or lazy or unmotivated. You start to recognize this for what it is, a biological loop. And just like any other habit or pattern, it's something that can be understood and, with a little practice, trained. So I'll leave you with this question. Forget the monumental, perfect task for just a moment. Instead, think about the power of a single, completed rep. What is one small, tangible thing you can finish today, just to give your brain that new piece of data?